Hey guys, Nilek here back with another EverQuest Legends guide. This one is going to be about audio triggers and audio alerts that you can set up in game with a little bonus, at the end about a different way to do it outside of the game. I'm doing this guide because a viewer was watching one of my live streams. I use this feature to make a little ding sound every time I loot a mote, and the viewer commented asking how do you do that. I do want to give a shout out, and let me just make sure, to BrutallStatic. He is a streamer that I watch. He's on the Riverville server, and he has talked about this feature a lot and kind of shown quickly how to get at it. So I learned about this feature from him and started using it. I'm going to include a link to his YouTube page down below in the description. Highly suggest you check him out. He's really good and streams pretty much every day of the week for pretty much the whole day, and has a lot of knowledge and answers all of the questions people ask. So with that said, let's go ahead and get off the cover image here and make sure that I am on my right thing. All right, so as we saw in the cover image, first thing we're going to do is hit our EQL button. We're going to go to Actions and then Audio Triggers. That is going to bring up this interface here. And it's actually pretty easy to use, but also a little limited compared to what I'm going to show at the end. So the first thing is you need to know what the log, or what the log is going to see when something fires. So let's say that I cast Spirit of Puma, right? I'm looking at, and depending on how you have your chat interface set up, you may have these hidden or you may have them on a tab. You just have to find them. So we can see when I cast it, it's saying you begin to snarl as your features become feline, right? If I take it off, it says the Spirit of Puma departs. So that is going to be, you can see with this one, this is the only one I'm using the built-in audio trigger that's built into the game for. And by default, there's not a lot of different sounds. This is actually one that I added, but there's not a lot of sounds here. When you click on them, you can kind of hear them, but it's a little bit limited. And so basically what you do is when you type up here, let's say that I want to play a sound anytime that Puma departs, right? You're looking for a pattern. So I'm just going to actually type in the whole sentence. You have to spell everything correctly. All the spaces have to be correctly. I don't believe capitalization matters, but it might. And I shouldn't need the period at the end. It really is just looking for everything up until that point. And let's say that I want that to be this thump, right? Don't want to spend too much time, but yeah, we'll just do that one, right? And then here you just have a note, and so this is just going to say uh, when Puma fades, right? And then you're going to hit play here just to test your sound. You can adjust the volume individually if that's too loud, and then you're going to hit create. And now I've got a second one there. You can't seem to edit an existing one. So if I wanted to edit this, if I didn't get it right, I basically have to delete this one and create a new one. So now if I cast Puma, nothing's happening, right? Because it's not meeting that criteria. But if I remove it, Spirit of the Puma departs and we get that sound. Now, you can add customized sounds via this. And so what I'm going to do while I'm showing that is I want to log off, because when you add a sound in a custom folder, you do have to reload the game. But we're going to show while this is reloading how to do this. So I'm going to go into, you have to find your EverQuest, folder. So this is not a guide on, how to use, basic computer functions, but assuming you could find your EverQuest Legends folder, it should look pretty much like this. And you have an audio triggers button here. And by default, this file is just my test file, and we're going to use that in a second. You have a default and a shared. Default is where all those sounds that I was just showing live. And you can do a couple of things. You could just add this to the default if you wanted to, and then when we reload the game, it will, should show up there. But you can also, depending on if you want to really keep it organized, you could say, custom or custom one, but let me just do custom. And I'm just going to throw this in there. And let's make another one, called like, you know, EQ sounds or something, or EQL sounds. Whoops, I didn't want to capitalize that there. And so for that, I'm just going to go into the sound, where is it? Sounds here, and I'm just going to grab some random stuff. These are just the in-game sounds. You might be able to find some things, but you can in there that you like, but you can really use anything that are WAV files. And there's tons of free sites. Just do a Google or a ChatGPT or whatever you use. Search for royalty free or license free WAV sounds. And you'll find a bunch of good websites. And I'm just going to copy these. I can't imagine this is against the terms because I'm still using them within the game. And then I'm going to go ahead and just restart EQ. So let me just bring that over here, and then we'll go back to our other screen here while that is loading. So we're just going to get back into the game here. And like I said, you do have to restart the game. I didn't test if you can just go back to the loading screen and then load back in, but I assume you have to, load the entire game back up. All right, so we're almost loaded in here. Okay, so now if we go back over EQL, actions, audio triggers, now we can see we have those two folders we created, right? Keep custom and EQL sounds. Now I will say that it does look like when you create a new folder, you do have to recreate your patterns. But there are, because I think the patterns are stored within this. There is a shared folder in the, let me go back to that real quick. I haven't experimented with how to use the shared folder, but there is a shared folder in that audio triggers thing, and what it says, let me bring this over. When I open the notepad, it says put WAV files in this folder for them to be visible by the audio trigger sound selector with any audio trigger folder selected. These files can be seen by any folder selection. But if I go back to, oops, if I go back to this, I don't see an any folder selection, so I'm not really sure. Maybe that just never worked, or it doesn't work in EQL. I'm not sure. But anyway, let's say that I made another pattern, and I just say, and this time I'm just going to say Puma. You know, you can see these are all just those random things that I had selected, and now, oh, I didn't create it, so you got to create it, and it'll be down here. So now whenever I cast Puma, because if we go back to my screen that shows me, yeah, so it actually is picking it up right here where I'm casting Puma. So this would pick it up anytime Puma is seen, whether it's departed. So you're not going to want to do that. You really want to focus on, exactly the message that you want, a buff wearing off or something like that. But you can always get those messages down here. And it's the same for a loot. So if we look back at my default, um, when I looted a mote, like it'll say you looted a mote of such and such potential. And so you could do a unique sound for every one of those if you wanted to know, okay, when do I get a level 5? When do I get a level 6? If you wanted to, or you just take part of the pattern and say, you looted a mote, and then it's going to trigger whenever you looted a mote. So that's how you use the in-game audio triggers and alert. And I mentioned, a little bonus. So I use EQ Legends Companion. I'm going to put a link to it in the description where you get to it. Um, this is an install. What it seems like is it only uses your log file. It should not break the terms and conditions because it's only using the log file like EQ log parser, which has been around for decades. But this gentleman who is creating this, and I don't know his name, unfortunately, or I would give him a shout out. is really putting in a lot of time to make this thing do a bunch of things. I'm not going to go over the whole app. I'm just quickly going to go over this alert section here. And so I've got some here. And what I love about this is if I say add from selection, it's kind of looking at all of the things that are kind of happen in the log. So if we look at this Spirit of Puma, it's giving me things like, okay, um, do I want to do something when Puma wears off, me and you're my pet? I'm already actually using that one. When it fades on pet or target only, when it lands on you, when it lands on someone else. Let's take something else. Let's take mesmerization, right? When it lands on a target, when it lands on someone, when mes or root breaks, right? So I'm going to say when mes or root breaks, and we can see down here it's adding this, and you have a couple of options here. So you can have voice spoken, and that is just going to read whatever you have there. It should.
Mesmerization broke on target.
There we go. And you actually have control over this voice. If you go to preferences and you go to voice, there's all kinds of different voices that you can choose there, and you can control the speed and things of that nature. Um, and then the other option, if you go to alert, is you can change that. So I can go and edit this. Well, actually, so you could do a bunch of stuff in the edit window. I'm not going to go through a whole bunch here because I haven't spent a lot of time. If you're using the voice, then this would be where you would write up or change what you wanted it to say. And it includes like, target, which is going to like put in whatever the target is. But you also can use these voice packs, right? And so if you click on this voice or sound packs button up here, you can see you can very quickly look at over 359 packs, right? So if I wanted orc stuff from Warcraft, right? That just installed. They don't all have a lot of things in them, so they don't take up a lot of space. And then I can select any of these from the orc.
What?
So, for example, mesmerization broken. So, right, we just set that up. I've got my EQ companion running. It's checking my log. If I go back into the game and I mesmerize this Thunder Spirit, I'm actually going to put a blanket of forgetfulness on it, so when it wears off in 30 seconds, it's not going to attack me. But the trigger actually should happen. So we're going to go back into this. And so again, you can use so this is like my charm break. I downloaded a Donald Trump, pack.
Nothing but problems.
Nothing but problems, he says. So, there's a few different things you can do in there. And there is you can upload your own sounds, add a sound, wave, MP3, OGG, it looks like. You can import
What?
alerts, it looks like it. So that was, we just heard, my Mez broke. So that quickly I was able to, add a sound effect for when mesmerization broke. And I might even leave that. I might even keep that there and use it. So that's pretty much all I had to show today. When I put the link in the description for EQ Companion, if you use that, do your own research. Don't take my word for it that it's a safe application. Please do your own research. It isn't an install, but it has a lot of features. Maybe I'll do another guide on all the features, but I'm still really getting to know it. But so install at your own risk and follow the instructions that are on the gentleman's webpage that I'm going to link down below. So did want to say thank you for watching and have a good day.